So I want to give you a little bit of introduction to myself. My name is Zac Gillman. I was born and raised in a little city called Clarksville, Tennessee. That big red star right there is Nashville, Tennessee. And so depending on how fast you drive, you could be there in about 30 minutes from where I grew up. In Austin Peay State University, everybody says, isn't that in Texas? Nope, that is in Tennessee. And that is the school that I went to and graduated from. I'll show you a little bit. These are some embarrassing pictures of myself. I did a little Facebook digging earlier, and I got some embarrassing photos to show you. So this is about a week into the chapter here. When I joined SigEp, we went to a steakhouse called Edwards in downtown Clarksville, Tennessee. This is the night that I was presented with the Balanced Man Scholarship. I won the BMS for my chapter. This was a profile picture that I had on my Facebook where I said, to be the best, you have to join the best. And touted some of our recent things that we had done cool as a chapter. This was my first Carlson Leadership Academy, 2013. I went to Ruck that summer. Went to Conclave in Dallas as well, so that was a really good time. I was selected to go on the Tragos Quest to Greece, so I got to go there. That was a really good time. And then I was hired to be regional director for the fraternity's headquarters staff. So that's a clean-shaven Zac right here. And this is quarantine Zac, what you're seeing right now. So this beard has grown out a lot in the last year. So I got the pleasure of being on the fraternity headquarters staff. And so I've really taken advantage of this opportunity to be in a fraternity, to take advantage of every experience I possibly can, and to really get my money's worth, right? Because paying dues, it's expensive to be a part of this. This is a luxury item. This is something that a lot of us had to do on our own. I had to do on my own throughout college. My parents did not support me. So I tried to invest myself and my time in as many different opportunities as I possibly could to get my money's worth out of it. So when I'm approaching this conversation, when I'm talking to vice presidents of finance, these are kind of the points that I hit home on really often. You are a part of a nationwide network. You are one of 340,000 plus members across the nation. Your membership today, whether as an undergraduate, or we even have volunteers that were undergraduates at least a few years ago, your membership today is an investment in your experience in your future now and later. You get out of it what you put into it. There are programs, services, and membership benefits that you can take advantage of. Your individual chapter is a part of a well-decorated history of a larger organization that's been around for now over 119 years. I understand your role is tough. Your role on the executive board is to keep the chapter moving forward and in a position to continue impacting the lives of thousands of men every year. That's a big ask for you guys as an executive board, but you guys were chosen to lead and chosen to do that task. But your job specifically as the VP of Finance is probably even tougher. It's to make sure that your chapter and members are fiscally healthy and responsible. And our responsibility as the headquarters staff, we don't really call ourselves nationals. I know that term gets thrown around a lot, but as the headquarters staff, the people that help support the grand chapter is to help support your operations as a chapter, provide you guys with these life-changing experiences that you can take advantage of, and then ultimately SigEp's mission to build balanced leaders for the world's communities. That's our goal, right? So there's a lot of things that we're going to talk about. There's a lot of things that are finance related. We're going to get into bills. We're going to get into the nitty gritty of things. But the things that I want you to remember before we dive into any of those things, we are here to help. We are your brothers. And we have the same goals to help your chapter succeed, help it grow, help it improve, and help it survive for another 119 years, hopefully. That's our goal. That's what we all want. That's what I'm here to do. That's why I'm on staff. That's why I'm in my position, is to help you as much as I possibly can. So that's what we're going to talk about here tonight. So my job here tonight is to make sure that you have as much information as you possibly need to increase the transparency that you can have with your brothers or your members, especially those who may be asking a lot of difficult questions for you as a VP of Finance right now. So we're going to start off this session. Remember, I said at the beginning, we're going to spend about 20 minutes here on the front end of this. We're going to start off this session with just kind of the FAQs of things that I get a lot, especially here in the last month or two, when I've been talking to a lot of newly elected VPs of Finance. In some cases, I start from ground zero. I'm like, okay, what do you know? Like, what do you know about the different fees? And sometimes that's really helpful to continue the conversation a little bit higher, because we really don't know what kind of transition packet you've gotten, or what the old guy told you or didn't tell you, whether that information was factual or only partly factual. So I'm gonna try to start at ground zero for everybody, so we're on the same level. So again, as I'm going through this, if you have more specific questions or you want me to hit on something, feel free to post in the chat. I'm going to pause periodically and try to look at those and go back to those. But I do have a ton of questions here on the front end that I want to go over for you. So to start off, what fees are we required to pay to the Grand Chapter each year? So there are really three things that each chapter is charged for that you can expect. The first one is a new member registration payment. This is the lifetime registration payment. It's a one-time $300 charge. So anytime a new member joins the chapter, you guys will report him in mySigEp, and we'll look at what that looks like here in a minute. And then automatically your chapter is invoiced $300 for that individual. Ideally, you guys are collecting that fee quickly from that individual so he has skin in the game, and you guys can turn around and pay that fee. Make sure that he's getting into the chapter experience. He's going to be sent his membership certificate and box, all those good things that come along with welcoming a new member into the chapter. That is a one-time $300 fee for a new member registration. The second thing is the fall programs and services bill. And I'm going to go in depth into what those bills are in just a second. But the third thing is the spring insurance and member safety bill. So we've got fall programs and services and the spring insurance and member safety bill. There are some other fees that you may see or happen upon or encounter. Those three that I just mentioned are the ones that you can come to expect on a pretty regular basis each year. Other things could be paying to go to programs. So if your chapter wants to send above the allocated amount, so each chapter gets a certain amount of free registrations for Carlson and Conclave, and those are paid for in the fall bill. If your chapter wants to go above and beyond and send more people than that, that is likely going to be on the chapter's dime or the AVC's dime, or some type of scholarship endowment that the chapter has set up. So you may see program registrations, hotel fees, expenses that are incurred when going to a program. Reinstatement fees, so if a brother resigns or is expelled, maybe for grades, so he gets a 2.0 GPA, but then next semester he works his tail off and he gets back up to a 3.0. He was expelled last semester. We want to invite him back into the chapter. You don't have to pay that $300 fee again. Some chapters will go into mySigEp and register that new member as if he's a new member again, but he's an old member. He's already been in your chapter. So that's a $10 reinstatement fee versus a $300 new member fee. So you may see reinstatement fees. And then a Renaissance fee. The Renaissance program is when we invite people over the age of 25 that are worthy of being a member of the fraternity, but they have not previously been affiliated with a fraternity. We'll invite them kind of into an honorary membership, if you will, called the Renaissance program, and that's $25 for their registration fee. They get a membership card and a certificate, just like a new member would as well. And then any late charges. If you don't pay your bills on time, in the real world, in any world, you're going to get charged a late fee. That's the same here with us. We try not to give too many late fees, and we've extended the period at which we allow payments to come in quite a long time, and I'll talk about that in just a second as well. But late charges could be on your statement or on your bills as well. The only other thing is no-show fees. So if you sign up for a program, you don't attend, you're going to get charged for that meal. Reason why is the fraternity heavily subsidizes your registration. So while you may pay, say, $100 to send somebody to a Carlson Leadership Academy program, the true cost of that is a lot more than $100. And so we're subsidizing that with foundation grants and our own operating budget to be able to allow more people to attend at a more affordable cost. So when people do not show up, that actually hurts a fraternity. It costs us money, and that's a detriment to everyone. So those fees, usually $25 or $100 if you don't show up to the entire program, are passed along to the chapter as well. Those are the fees that a chapter is required to pay. Primarily, new member registrations, fall and spring bill. Let's talk about new members a little bit more. A new member resigned, can I get a refund? I'll talk to you about what is the Grand Chapter Bylaws policy for this question. So immediately, as I mentioned, you report a new member, and let's say just for consistency's sake, he joins on January 1st. And you report him to us on January 1st, and you say he's a new member of our chapter. Overnight, you're going to get invoiced $300 for that member. If that member resigns within the first 30 days of his membership, the Grand Chapter Bylaws allow the chapter to request up to 50% refund for that individual. The reason why is we incur expenses immediately upon that person joining. We immediately order membership cards, certificates, we add him to our insurance liability coverage, and pay for a license to be able to get into the BMP app and begin his Sigma challenge, hopefully immediately upon joining. And then so the chapter is eligible to receive up to 50%, which is $150 of that $300 fee refunded to them only if he resigns within the first 30 days. So again, if he joins on January 1st and you notify us on February 10th that he resigned on February 10th, that member is not going to be eligible for that refund. This is why it's critically important to make sure that you're invoicing your members immediately from day one. So when they join, especially through our partnership with greekbill, we've got it so our rosters automatically sync and you can go in and immediately charge that new member for that $300 fee. As a chapter officer, as a VP of finance, I would do everything I could to collect that immediately. While I see it as a barrier to entry, I also see that as skin in the game. The more skin in the game a member has of being in the chapter, the more likely he is to stick around. If he's leaving 30 days afterwards, he likely wasn't going to be a good contributing member for the next 4 years. So the quicker that you can get that new member fee collected directly from him to you guys so you can pay that off as well, the better shape you're going to be in. So 30-day policy, you're eligible for a 50% refund. That will go back on the chapter statement as a credit to be applied towards other bills or whatever. And you can email membership@sigep.net to request that. So the next one here, why is my chapter billed at a rate of X when we only have Y members? So especially this year, I've had a lot of questions about this. And so I definitely understand everything that's going on. But even in a normal year, I get this question a lot. So let me talk to you a little bit about our process for calculating those bills and how we bill chapters. So every year, around March and April, we conduct what's called the Periodic Membership Report, or the PMR. Each chapter is required to log in to the member portal and confirm how many people are in the chapter as of March 1st that year. So imagine you guys were at a chapter meeting, and then you left that chapter meeting and everybody went outside on March 1st and took a giant group photo. Whoever was in that group photo is going to be included on your periodic membership report for that year. Reason why it's conducted around that time is because we have to provide a number to our insurance providers to calculate our upcoming year's premium that is calculated for our spring insurance bill. And we pay that at the very beginning of the year for every chapter. Think of the fall and spring bill. There's other expenses that we pay for at the beginning of the year as well, like hotel costs. Oftentimes they require deposits way in advance or paying the fee way in advance to be able to secure dates for Carlson Leadership Academy or Conclave. So that's your fall programs and services bill. But think of your fall and spring bill payments actually as a reimbursement to the Grand Chapter, because we've already paid for those expenses up front. So on March 1st, you're going to go in and we'll give out instructions. We'll make sure everybody's aware, and we'll follow up with every chapter until it's done. You're going to go in, verify your roster, and make sure it's completely accurate, and then let us know. That's how we'll use that number for the upcoming fall 2021 and spring 2022 bills. So if a senior graduates on May 1st, he's in the chapter as of March 1st. He's included on your PMR. If you recruit a new member on March 2nd, for example, he is not included on your PMR because he was not in the chapter as of March 1st. So any new member that gets added between March 1st and March 1st is not added onto your PMR. They only are responsible for that one-time $300 fee. They do not get added onto your per man calculation for the fall and spring bills. So you're gonna have another opportunity to update the roster, confirm who's in the chapter in the next few weeks or so. Be on the lookout via email, and we'll make sure to follow up with everybody on the process in which to do that. The good thing about mySigEp and roster management is that you can now keep your roster up to date in real time. So while expelling a member or resigning a member doesn't take him off your PMR calculation, because again, we've already paid for that member up front, that's a sunk cost. Updating your roster in real time gives us really good insight to how we're performing, where chapters need additional support in recruitment or relief in finances. And so it's really important that your roster is updated with your real-time membership at all times, not just once a year during the annual census process, but at all times. The next question I get a lot is, why is my spring bill twice as much as my fall bill? Again, let me kind of go back and explain the differences in the fall and spring bill. The fall is programs and services. So especially this year, we heavily reduced by almost $50 per man the requirement for the fall bill. Because that goes towards paying for Conclave and Carlson Leadership Academy. We did not have a Carlson Leadership Academy. That's why we're here virtually tonight, because we can't do an in-person Carlson Leadership Academy. So there'd be no point in having you guys pay into that pot because we would not be able to benefit anything from it. So we took away that fee. We took away the requirement to pay into the chapter investment fund and the housing loan fund, which is almost a $50 per man decrease for the fall bill. So fall bill is programs and services. That is really in our control. Spring bill is insurance fees, which are absolutely outrageous for everybody, including the fraternity industry. We are really thankful in SigEp that we've had a pretty good loss run for the last few years. A loss run means essentially how many times did we have to go to the insurance company and have them bail us out? Either we're facing a claim or we're going through a lawsuit. Somebody was injured, hopefully nothing more severe than that. But that's why we have insurance in case things do happen. And thankfully, we haven't had to dip into that for quite some time now. We're going on a pretty good loss run ratio for almost 5 years now. But that doesn't mean that the fraternity market as a whole, which our insurance provider is a part of the entire insurance market, so we're looked at as a collective, unfortunately, sometimes, has performed at the same rate that we have. So while we've done good, and we've received a flat renewal, meaning there was no increase in premiums now for the second year in a row. So the bills have been roughly the same for 2 years in a row now. A lot of other organizations are facing 30, 40, 50% increases in their premium and having to pass it along to their members. So the insurance premium is really not in our control. We try to negotiate every single year, and we ask them, we beg them, we say, hey, can you reduce our rates any? Look at our loss run, look at all the good things we're doing with the Balanced Man program, with substance-free facilities, with year-round recruitment and recruiting the right guys into our organization. Can you offer us a decrease? And we are really grateful that they came back and said, we're not going to increase your rates this year. Especially with everything going on in the world with COVID. You think of wildfires out west. You think of businesses that have been looted or destroyed. The insurance market in the United States has taken a huge hit. So the fact that we've received a flat renewal is really great. Fall bill, really in our control. Spring bill really comes in the door and out the door straight to insurance premiums for the majority of that bill. We did introduce a tiered-based system for the spring bill in 2017. So essentially, your chapter has the opportunity to pay less than those chapters that are having incidents or constantly violating claims. So you as a chapter that has not had any incidents or violated any member safety policies are not held accountable for those groups that are consistently violating those policies. So the best tier that you can be in is in tier 1. Another discount that you can get is by applying to the Buchanan Cup and winning a Buchanan Cup. And some information is going to be coming out on Monday about that. So look out for that process, as well as applying to become a SigEp learning community. You can get an additional percentage-based points off your bill right now. We are going to be reassessing that tiered structure headed into next year. This year, heavily incentivized substance-free facilities. As you may or may not know, there was a piece of legislation back in 2017 that was kind of a gradual, we're going to implement this over the next 3 years, that required that all facilities, SigEp facilities, were completely substance-free by August 2020. And so we've passed that deadline. Every chapter has adopted the completely substance-free policy, and we are no longer going to incentivize that because everybody's at that one tier, right? So let's look at other ways to get creative to offer you new discounts because nobody's in that second tier. So let's try to figure out how we can continue to improve chapter operations, continue to lower our risk, hopefully keep our loss run as it is, and offer new ways for chapters to save a little bit of money on their spring bill. So we are going to be looking at that. I don't have any really insight into what that process is going to look like just yet, because that's almost a year away between when our next spring bill is going to go out. So that's the differences in the bills. I talked a little bit about this question in my last one. Why are insurance rates so high? Think about market conditions for the fraternity industry. Think about all the different other fraternities on your campus. It's not you. I know all SigEp chapters are perfect, but think about all the other organizations on campus and how bad they are. Unfortunately, when the insurance providers, when insurance market looks at fraternities, we're unfortunately grouped together a lot of the times. We've received a flat renewal, as I mentioned, because of our policies, our good behavior, and our good loss run. But a lot of this is really out of our control. So especially this year, I get this question a lot: what financial relief options are available to me? And I'm going to try to speed through the next section of this so we can get to some more of the meat of this presentation. First, before I get into relief options, I want to talk to you about how the Grand Chapter responded, how the National Board of Directors responded when we got into this situation where we were navigating COVID-19 and knowing that that's going to have a financial impact on our chapters. So the first thing that we did was lowered our overall expenses. We cut a significant portion of our annual operating revenue or budget in the form of programs expenses, staffing, and we cut all travel as a national organization. So you may be familiar historically with having a regional director that would come to your chapter. That costs money to one, pay that person to be out on the road, to pay for that person's gas. If he's sleeping on a couch, that saves the fraternity money a little bit, but sometimes he needs a place to stay. And that costs a lot of money, as well as traveling to programs like Carlson, our advancement team traveling to potential donors. We cut really all travel off of our annual operating budget to try to lower expenses and lower that burden as much as humanly possible. We extended bill payment deadlines. In the fall, the bill was invoiced on September 10th. The early deadline and the typical deadline every year is October 10th. And we extended that deadline through December 31st to help chapters with cash flow. So we added almost 3 additional months for chapters to be able to pay off that bill, knowing that it was tough. And there was only maybe 10, maybe 12 chapters who were assessed a late fee due to lack of payment for that one. So that one really worked really well. Today is the early deadline for the spring bill. So that bill, you guys all got a heads up, or maybe the previous VP of Finance got a heads up on December 15th, roughly. The bill was invoiced on January 11th, and the bill was due today. We are extending this for chapters that need a little bit additional time. There is no late fees going to be assessed until the end of March. So if you need a little bit of additional time to pay off this bill, the spring insurance and member safety bill that's due today, we can extend that through March 31st for you. Beginning on April 1st, a 1% monthly recurring late fee will be assessed on the remaining balance of the chapter statement. And we've gotten creative wherever we have. So if you've been really transparent with me, if you've given me a call, say, hey, here's the situation, here's where we're at, we're doing whatever we possibly can, we're going to try to find solutions for you. Again, I think communication is really important here. We're all on the same page. We want to see you thrive. We want to see you succeed. And so whatever we can possibly do, we're gonna help you do. So if you're one of these chapters that are really struggling right now, you're not going to be able to pay it off in full by March 31st, and you're really wondering how you're going to be able to do your job, shoot me an email right now, and let's have a conversation. Let's schedule a call, and we'll come up with something creative to make sure that you guys are in a really good position. So extended deadlines, we're allowing chapters to make those partial payments. We've lowered bills as much as we can, waiving late fees whenever we can. We're switching from a 5% late fee to that 1% monthly late fee to, again, allow chapters a little bit more time and lower the potential late fee. But again, the importance of communication here is really, really critical. So if you want to talk about relief options, reach out to me. The next question, how do I make a payment for the spring bill? I'm going to go into that in just a second. Actually, let's go ahead and do that right now. So everybody can still see my screen, right? So I'm going to go into mySigEp. So when you first land on mySigEp, this is your profile, your landing page for everything for you as a person, as a member. If you click into your chapter, I'm looking at somebody from my home chapter that I was talking to earlier today. So if you click into your chapter, Tennessee Gata, there's a button right here that says chapter statement. If you click on that, it's going to be a line-by-line statement of accounts of every fee that your chapter owes to the Grand Chapter. So really easy. You can click on invoice, and it's going to open up a little PDF invoice of what your chapter owes, how it's calculated, the per man fee, where is the different money going into what different pots. You can see every new member invoice right here. And to make a payment, it's really simple. So you say, let's pay that fall 2020 late fee. It's going to go ahead and populate the full amount over there. If you want to change that amount and do only a partial payment, we're going to go down to, say, let's go to $150. That's going to change that total payment right there. And then I'm going to click on the make payment button. So we have 2 ways that you can make a payment. The first way is on mySigEp via credit or debit card. In order to do this, You have to make sure, one, that you are authorized to do so, that you are the billing contact on your bank. If not, it'll probably get declined. So if you are not the billing contact, if the old guy is or somebody else, and you're not entering that person's name, it's going to get declined. Make sure that you have the correct billing address also plugged in there as well. So once you get that first step, you're going to go through, you're going to enter in all the card details, you're going to verify that it's correct. Most of the time it's going to go through, but sometimes it's not. A lot of chapters have local banks that have different restrictions on the amount that you can pay. So a lot of banks have transaction limits that you can't make a payment of over, say, $5,000. Sometimes too, because you're only making large payments to us once or twice a year, they will identify us as a vendor that is potentially fraudulent. And that's a protection program that your bank sets up with your card as a security measure to prevent anybody from misusing it. But you're not misusing it. You're doing it for a purpose that is verified, that's confirmed. And so if you call us, there's nothing that we can do to help your personal bank unblock your issue. You have to be responsible for calling your own bank and saying, hey, here's the situation. I'm verifying this purchase. I want to make this purchase. Here's the amount. Here's the vendor. Can you unblock me from doing that? Stay on the phone with them until they do it, and then try to make the payment again. They'll usually say, try again in 5 minutes, and then try it again, and it should go through this time. If it doesn't go through, the second way to make a payment is old school, writing out a check. I've seen a lot of people send checks in our headquarters office, and you guys should Google how to write a check before you send it if you don't know how to write a check. Sometimes we've had to send it back to the vice president of finance to fix it. You got to sign it. You got to put the amount in the correct place. You got to write out what the amount is. Just make sure you know how to write a check if you're going that route. If you don't have any physical checks or you're not authorized to do it, a lot of banks will also have a bill pay option in the payment portal on the bank's website. So you go in there, you say, I need to pay this bill. I need the bank to send a physical check to this vendor. You enter in the amount, the address in which they need to ship it, and usually that gets processed. As long as the check is in the mail and postmarked by that deadline of March 31st, even if it doesn't arrive on March 31st, as long as it's postmarked and the mail has already begun processing it, there are going to be no additional late fees that get assigned. We know that the mail's been super delayed. I read something the other day. It's like only 30% of all mail is actually getting delivered on time right now. So as long as it's postmarked by that date, we're in really good shape. You can make a payment online via credit or debit card, or do the physical mail, mailing in a check to the headquarters address. So that's how you make a payment. I want to quickly show in mySigEp a couple other things that you can do. From this view right here is how you report potential new members. So usually your vice president of recruitment or somebody on the recruitment committee is going to take care of this, but you need to know about this because you guys are going to get invoiced for this. So I want to make sure that you're also aware this is how you report a potential new member. So ideally, you're kind of working this potential member through your pipeline, through the different stages. But if you do need to just come in here and say, hey, this guy joined my chapter, you can just say, hey, Zac Gillman joined my chapter. He's in the bid extended category. And I'm going to click this purple report button. Now you got to give first name, last name, email, and phone number, a very minimal amount of information in order to report that person as a new member. And if not, it's going to come up and say you got to fix these errors before you report them. But once I do that, I'm going to fix the errors. I'm going to click next. And then it's going to say, what's this person's join date? You're going to say, report that person as a brother. They're automatically going to get added into our system, and you're going to get invoiced for that person's fee. So more information is going to come out about the PMR process later on. So don't worry about that just now. Just look out for your email. I did want to show you on the chapter profile. This is what I mentioned earlier. So I clicked on Tennessee ADA. I clicked on chapter profile. That's my tax ID. So if I need to go search for that on the IRS website, that's where I go find what my chapter's tax ID is and go search for that on that website. You're also listed here as an officer. You should see yourself as the Vice President of Finance. This is where you're going to manage your roster. So if anybody gets expelled from the organization, you want to take him off your roster. Anybody resigns from the organization, you want to take them off your roster. If you want to add somebody back that's already been there, you got to email us to do that. So email membership@sigep.net. If you want to request that refund, that $150 refund, you got to email us at membership@sigep.net. There's a lot of cool stuff to do in mySigEp. I will show you, if you go to sigep.org/help, it's going to take you to a landing page with a ton of different help articles on how to do the different tasks in mySigEp, the BNP app, and on chapter sites, so websites that we provide for each chapter free of charge. So there's a ton of different things, how to view your chapter statement. I'll go into this one. It has a step-by-step tutorial on how to view it, how to make a payment, what happens if your payment gets declined, what methods of payment are accepted, all these helpful tips that you may need as the VP of Finance. So that's a little bit on mySigEp. So I'm close to staying on time here, so I'm gonna speed through this, and then we're gonna get into a little bit on greekbill. So I know that your job as the Vice President of Finance is really tough. But I want to talk about 5 things that are skills or core competencies that you really need to hone in on as the VP of Finance this year. So the first one is accountability. I know that this year is tough. If you're in a position where you're not charging chapter dues, or you're not charging as much, or you really laxed on payment plans or deadlines, that may negatively affect your chapter's culture for many years to come. So there's a fine balance of empathy for people's situation and getting them set up on payment plans and working with individual situations, like somebody's parent passed away. God forbid. I hope that doesn't happen. But we want to show that guy a little bit of empathy. We want to create creative solutions for that person so he doesn't have to resign or doesn't get expelled because of that family trauma. But for the guy that isn't going through any trauma, and he's just not paying his dues, he's like, hey, this isn't for me anymore. We've got to hold our standards high. We've got to make sure that we have that accountability in place. We have our policies in place to make sure that doesn't negatively impact our chapter culture for years to come. The second one is transparency. I think especially in the time of COVID, we want to be as transparent as we can as a national organization, and you should too as a Vice President of Finance. This means reporting your bank balances to your chapter, talking about upcoming expenses, sharing who's potentially delinquent, working with your AVC to make sure that they have a little bit of insight and can help maintain the fiscal health of your chapter for now and for years to come. That transparency is really, really important. I think a piece of this is that communication factor as well. Communicating is one of the toughest things for finance brains. If I had to speak for my dad, who is a controller and he's a CPA, he runs a few car dealerships. He was trying to give me advice the other day about how to navigate this conversation. He said, you know, if you're really finance focused, it's really hard for you to level with everybody else because your brain is at a completely different level. And so sometimes you really have to dumb it down to communicate what you're seeing on your end that will resonate with the entire chapter with everybody else, because you guys are at very different levels of understanding of the financial situation of your chapter. I also think communicating well ahead of time is really important. Since I've been on this call, I've had about 10 people shoot me an email unrelated to anybody where I've said, hey, send me an email. I've had about 10 people send me an email and say, hey, I can't get the spring bill payment to go through. And y'all, it's February 10th. Today is that deadline that we talked about. And so chapters are reaching out to me literally, I'm technically off the clock right now, but literally hours before midnight when it's due, saying they're having issues. So it's really important to communicate early, communicate before the deadline. Let's talk about creative solutions before the last minute, and try to communicate with your AVC as often as you possibly can too, because they've probably navigated some of these situations and can help out a lot as well. The second to last core competency or skill that I really want you guys to hone in on and think about this year is prioritization and planning. You have to be able to budget properly. You have to be able to understand what everybody in the organization is doing, what all the different expenses are going to be. And sometimes you got to tell people no. I love this quote. Don't tell me your priorities, show me your budget. If you can pull up your budget and that can explain what your chapter's priorities are, that's really, really impactful. Think of an example of a company who says that they value something, but then they do the opposite thing. So for example, a company says that they value, one of their core values is helping reverse the effects of climate change. And then in fact, the negative impact that they have on climate change every year is exponential, and they only contribute about this much of their budget every year to reversing the effects of climate change. That their budget does not align with what they say their core values are. So you always have to be thinking about that, be prioritizing, be planning ahead, be working with the rest of your team. And that leads to the fifth core competency or skill. This is one that I think a lot of people really struggle with more and more. Your job as VP of Finance is not necessarily only to focus on budgeting and collections. You also need to be in lockstep with whatever the Vice President of Recruitment's doing. The Vice President of Recruitment's success directly relates to your chapter's financial success. So a lot of the time when I'm on the phone with the Vice President of Finance, I'll ask them, how many members do you guys project recruiting this year? And he'll have no idea. He'll say, that's a recruitment's job. Or we're talking about a conversation where the PMR is a little bit different than their current chapter size. And I say, okay, what's the goal to replace those members? I don't know, that's a VP of recruitment's job. You guys should be in lockstep with offering a good experience that leads to retention and helping have more people in your chapter, and also going and recruiting more people, which leads also to an increase of revenue for your bottom line. So teamwork and collaboration is another really important core competency and skill that you need to hone in on. The last point that I've got here, and then I want to introduce our friends over at greekbill, is this concept of WIFM. If you've never seen this before, maybe here's a little nugget of information you can take away for you. But WIFM stands for what's in it for me. Your best attribute as a VP of Finance is honing in on this skill and being able to clearly articulate the WIFM for everybody else in your chapter that you're talking to. So quick example, go through this real life scenario. I was talking to somebody the other day. I was coaching them through exactly how to have a conversation very similar to this with their chapter about why they should pay dues. So I'm going to use a date night social function. I don't know if you guys are able to have that. I don't know what your local restrictions are right now, but someday we're going to be back to normal. This is going to come up. And so there's two different approaches that you can take. So a date night social function is going to cost $75. It's going to be registered. It's going to be a third-party event. We're going to follow all the policies. We're going to get everybody there safely. We're going to get everybody home safely. It's going to cost $75. All right. You as a VP of Finance can get in front of the room and you can say, all right, everybody, pay now. It's $75. Quit slacking off. Get your money in. I don't want to say it again. Get your money in. It's $75. Get it in now. That's approach number one. Approach number two, hey guys, we are having this date night social function. We are partnering with the sorority down the road. It's $75 a head, but here's what you're going to get out of it. One, it's going to be an awesome time. It's going to be luau themed, so you can crank out your best Hawaiian shirt. We're going to have some incredible food. We're going to have X, Y, and Z at the event. And then we're also going to pay for shuttles or Ubers to get everybody to the event and home safely. So you don't have to worry about your car. You don't have to worry about trying to find a designated driver. We're going to get you there safely, and it only costs $75 a head for this incredible night. So those two approaches, right? The second approach, I clearly honed in on the WIFM. I translated whatever I wanted to get out of it to our chapter members and whatever they wanted to get out of it. So I tried to understand what is it in it for them. So that's a skill that you can kind of develop, hone in on. The WIFM is really important to articulate. One WIFM that everybody in your chapter can take advantage of right now. It's completely free. It gets you involved in this national network. It gets you connected with an alumnus from across the country, potentially, in a career field that you are interested. Literally, as a VP of Finance, if somebody's saying, well, I don't understand why I'm paying for this, send them this link right now and make them sign up for this. I guarantee they will come back a changed person because they got to take advantage of that. That's a direct benefit of their membership, to take advantage of a program and opportunity by being involved or being a part of this organization. So we launched career coaching in the fall. We've had about 400 undergraduates take advantage of this. We've got hundreds of coaches that have already signed up. They said, I'm willing to coach somebody in this particular area. CEOs, VPs at banks, you name it, we've got an alumnus that has expressed interest. And if we don't have that alumnus, we're going to go find that alumnus. Somebody said, hey, I really want to get into like sports broadcasting. That's really specific. And we went out and found 5 that expressed interest in mentoring that undergraduate that's in sports broadcasting. I've already heard a couple of people that have gotten internships and one guy that's got a job from this. So I'm not going to promise that, but you need to take advantage of this. And this is a direct benefit of your membership with Sigma Phi Epsilon. So if anybody's talking, they say, I don't understand what we're getting out of this, send them this link right now and tell them to go sign up for it. There's also multiple sessions of Ruck Leadership Institute. This executive development session, we're doing as much as we possibly can in a virtual environment to show and provide you with value. So there's a lot of things that we went over, a lot of FAQs. We talked a little bit about mySigEp. We talked about WIFM. That's a really important skill for you to hone in on, and some other things that you could really capitalize on this year if you develop that skill set that's needed to be a VP of Finance. The last thing that we're going to end with tonight, the next 10 or 15 minutes or so, is a conversation with our boy, Riley Moffitt. He's looking good. The beard's coming in really nicely. Is our representative over at greekbill. If you are interested in getting over to greekbill, which I hope that you are interested, if you've at least heard about it, you're going to talk to Riley. That he's going to be your first point of contact there. But to get a little walk up here, SigEp launched a partnership with greekbill last February. Greekbill is a chapter dues collection service. Since then, about 60 or so chapters have already switched over to using greekbill. The biggest benefit, I think, in my opinion, that I absolutely love is that it's integrated with our system. So that means that when you go on and report a new member, that roster syncs with greekbill's platform. That new member automatically gets added over there, and then you can charge that person that fee over there. That also means that their username and password is the same. So you don't have to worry about maintaining different names and passwords, getting people registered on multiple systems. Once they get into mySigEp, all they got to do is press that button at the top that says greekbill, and they'll be immediately invited into the greekbill platform as well. Alumni and volunteers can gain admin access. So if you have somebody that is constantly asking you, like, how's our collection rate going? What are we doing about this guy? How's this person paying his dues? You can give them access and they can have that insight right away. There's a ton of other things, including some tax services that greekbill offers that, again, I'm not the smartest guy on, so I hope that you can take advantage of that. But we really, Riley and I want to just have a quick conversation. I do have some FAQs that the guys have sent in either last month during the last month session or in advance of the session. I want to ask Riley, and I'm going to put him on the spot here to be able to answer a few of these questions. So Riley, if you don't mind, let's start off. Introduce yourself, who you are, where you work, all that stuff, and I'll get into the first question.
Hey guys, so my name is Riley Moffitt, as Zac alluded to. My quarantine beard isn't as good as his. I've trimmed it a couple times since we started, but now I have some goals and some aspirations to catch up to him. I'm here from the greekbill team. Been with greekbill for just over 4 years last week. So pretty familiar with not only what they have going on, but a lot of what's happening in the fraternal industry. Really here to help you guys out with, hey, my chapter is having these types of challenges. How can greekbill look to address those? How can we make the life of the VPF easier? how can we make the life of chapter members easier? We know that every chapter, while you guys are a part of the same organization, you're operating with your own uniqueness, and greekbill is going to work with you to let our platform fit that uniqueness, right? It's not cookie cutter. Just because you're a part of SigEp does not mean that you're going to operate the same as every other chapter on this call. So I'm excited to kind of dive into some of these things that Zach has for us. And like he said, if you have any questions that you want to talk to me about, I'm kind of your first point of contact on the greekbill side, so I'm here to help out.
Yeah, so like I said, for the first part of my session, nobody took me up on that. Nobody chatted me in any questions during that entire first 45 minutes or so. So I do, if you have any questions for greekbill or for Riley, this is an opportunity to ask those now. So Riley, one of the questions that we got last week or last month during the VP of Finance session was, what is the onboarding process to greekbill look like? So whatever system we're using now, what's the onboarding process to switch away and go over to greekbill?
Yes, great question and a great starting point. So first thing is you just want to get in touch with me, right? Because until you get in touch with me, you really can't. You're going to hit that greekbill link at the top of mySigEp, and it's going to put you into your member portal. There's really not much else you can do. So step one, just reach out to me. Let's have a conversation. Everybody knows a little bit. Everybody knows something about greekbill, so it really depends on how much you know. If we've had conversations, if you've gone through a demo, if you've watched one of the demonstration recordings, the webinars that we've done, and you know that you want to sign up and get going, it's a 5-minute process. If it's something where you want to learn more, you want to have some in-depth conversations about your chapter, you want to do a personalized demonstration where we'll walk through the platform from front to back, then we're going to meet at least one time. We'll talk about how it fits your chapter. We'll get all your questions answered. And once you decide, once you have those conversations with the e-board, with other chapter members, with your AVC, and you want to move forward, it's a 2-step process. First one is to sign the agreement that acknowledges that greekbill has the authorization to process payments on behalf of the chapter. And the second one is to provide our finance team with banking information. It is literally a 5-minute process. I'm not sure, look at the names. I think we have 1 or 2 that are using greekbill right now. But if you guys talk to them about using greekbill and they were the ones who signed up, they can tell you exactly how easy it is. We want to make it as easy as possible for you.
Good stuff. My home chapter just switched away. They were on a leg-fi system. They said it was a seamless process to convert everything over to greekbill. On that note, though, there were a couple of guys that still maybe had graduated a couple of years ago, or they still owed us some money. Do those balances transfer over to greekbill? So whatever system we're using now, can I still transfer old debt into the new system?
Yes, great question. So you can. A couple of different options, right? For those of you that are using like a leg-fi, all you're going to need to do is download whatever reports show that somebody has an outstanding balance and send those over to your greekbill chapter rep, and they will put those into the system for you. If somebody is an alumni or they're graduated recently, but they still have a balance, you'll need to update in mySigEp. You'll just click, I believe it's a checkbox, so you'll enter their name in, and it'll create them an account on greekbill. And then the next day, we can put their balance onto greekbill for you. So whether they're a current active member or they're an alumni that carries over a balance, more than welcome to have us upload those balances. For those of you that are using just Excel to track everything, really similar experience to go through. Instead of having to download the reports, just send those over to your greekbill chapter representative, and they will upload those into the system. Very important that when you come onto greekbill, you don't lose the ability to collect on any funds that are owed to the chapter.
So I did get somebody email me earlier when I was talking about the IRS. I think this person may be a little bit nervous after I talked about the IRS because it's a little scary. So what support does greekbill help with related to filing taxes or even the reinstatement process for those chapters that may have already gotten revoked?
Yeah, so let's create 2 buckets here. For those of you that are in good standing, you're filing taxes every year, you know the chapter has a nonprofit status. Greekbill has a self-service, we're going to refer to it as like the tax wizard. It's a self-service module. So for those of you who are early birds, it can be 6 in the morning. For those of you who are doing things late at night, you can come in at midnight if you want to. Fill out the information. As you plug in information, it's going to prompt you through the process. Once you hit submit, it gets sent out to our tax accountant who's going to review the information, and they're going to submit it to the IRS on behalf of the chapter. The confirmations of the filings are posted onto greekbill. That way, a year from now, 2 years from now, 3 years from now, if there are any questions about the tax filings, the VPF then wants to come in and maybe see what was filed, he's going to have full visibility to do so. There's no more keeping files in a file cabinet. And when you move apartments and the new VPF gets elected, you got to drag a file cabinet across campus and go take it to the next guy's apartment. For those of you who are in a situation where your nonprofit status has been revoked by the IRS, we do have a CPA who specializes in nonprofit taxes who will work with you to go through the reinstatement process. I don't see them on the webinar this evening, but I know West Virginia Gamma, they started the process over the course of the summer, and a few weeks ago, they got their reinstatement letter from the IRS, and they are now good to go. So it is a lengthy process, but it's more so kind of you're sitting in a queue waiting for the IRS to go through your paperwork, to approve everything. So the work on your end is minimal. A lot of it's going to be done by the IRS, and then whoever the primary contact is will hear back, and you'll find out that your status has been reinstated. If you're not sure, there's nothing wrong with reaching out to Zach, to the greekbill team, to whomever to find out, right? If you're not sure what your status is, we're more than happy to help you look into it.
I actually learned something new. I didn't even know you guys had that old tax filing storage system. So that's kind of cool. Especially here recently when I've been working with the IRS or working with chapters trying to navigate this, I found that the IRS website is bad. And sometimes they don't have all the filings on there, or they don't have it updated in a timely fashion. And so having that place where you can store old filings and be able to clearly look back and not lose that institutional knowledge every year is really critical, probably to the success of the next VP of Finance. So you're talking about securing your legacy for the next guy. One of the questions is related to alumni or volunteer admin access. So we're talking about budgeting, we're talking about collections, we're talking about all the different reports that go in. Can I just give somebody that's on the AVC access to see greekbill so they can just have real-time access rather than me having to tell them every single time they ask me a question?
Yes, definitely. There's nothing wrong with giving your AVC treasurer, your AVC president, an advisor, an alumni, whoever it is, and it can be more than one person, but whoever it is that you're working with that's going to be helping you out with your finances, helping you out with the budget, wants to keep an eye on what the AR for the chapter looks like, things along those lines, they can definitely have a greekbill account. They can get not only access to all of those things, but greekbill is built on roles and permissions, which means that they can get view-only access. So if it's something where maybe the agreement is they can see everything, but they can't modify anything, right? They can't send invoices out. They can't change somebody's balance. They can't make any edits to anything. We can help to set that up as well.
What about greekbill's budgeting tools? Do you have anything that can help a chapter kind of collaborate as an executive board, sit down, think about all the different expenses, and then start to compare those to our expenses throughout the year as they're coming in?
Yes. So not only do we have a budgeting tool, but because of the partnership that we have with SigEp, the budgeting tool, so the sub-accounts that you're going to look at, your COAs, right? Those are designed specifically for SigEp. So you're going to have your SigEp template, but then it can also be customized. So to kind of go back to what I was talking about when I first came on, of every chapter is going to be unique. If you have categories, if you have sub-accounts that are specific to your chapter, let your account manager, your greekbill chapter representative know, and they will put those into the budgeting tool for you. Depending on how your chapter wants to configure their admin roles and who gets admin access, you can give visibility to the budgeting tool to the entire e-board. So when you sit down for your meetings, everybody can come prepared. They can review the budget. If somebody wants to print it off for a chapter meeting, you can look at, we also offer a full suite of financial reporting. So you can look at things like your P&L. You can look at a balance sheet. You can look at your income statements. That way, when Zach was really honest about being transparent with the chapter about where the funds are going, greekbill is a tool that will make everything easier for you to do those things. I've talked to VPFs who have sat down and spent hours upon hours every weekend trying to transfer information from their bank's website over to their Excel spreadsheet and then look and see who's paid and what that money should go towards. greekbill is going to automate that entire process for you. Let's take that time that you spend budgeting down from maybe 3 hours on a Sunday afternoon to 15 minutes on a Thursday morning, right? As much time as we can give you back, that's what we want to do.
Good stuff. A lot of chapters do a membership agreement. And Riley, for your context, this is kind of like a contract that a member agrees to the policies of the organization, agrees to follow the bylaws of the organization, but also on a semesterly basis agrees to the certain dues that the chapter or the executive board has set for the semester. And so this is kind of like a binding contract for that person to opt in to being a member that semester, and they're going to pay the dues by the end of the year. So that's kind of like a contract system, e-sign. Do you have, I don't know, do you have anything that actually help with the membership agreement process?
We do. So greekbill has an entire contract management module available to you. I want to break it into a few different buckets here. Kind of, Zach, what you're alluding to, just blanket statements. Everybody in the chapter is going to get an agreement. Yes, let's do that. Let's not only can you set it up yourself, but I'm going to reference your greekbill chapter representative again. They're there to help you get your agreements into greekbill. So if you have one where every semester needs to be sent out to the entire chapter for them to sign, send it out. You get full visibility into who signed it. You can make it mandatory, meaning that nobody can get into their greekbill account until they've signed it. They'll get a hard stop after they click the greekbill link in the mySigEp. But let's also take a look at it and say, okay, similar to when Zach showed that you can extend a bid to somebody. Maybe for your chapter, anybody who's received a bid has to sign their own type of agreement, right, for potential new members. Let's bucket those potential new members into a category. You can send it out to those 5 or 10 guys. Then let's do another bucket that's maybe payment plans. So we want to extend payments out to, or extend installments out to someone, right? They're having a hardship at home, they're working on campus, they're waiting for their financial aid to come in. Instead of paying you the full amount of dues at the beginning of the semester, they're going to do every other Friday. They're going to do once a month. For those guys, let's definitely get them on a contract or a promissory note. greekbill offers payment plans as a functionality. Within the payment plan process or the workflow, contracts are actually built into that. And that is so that you have something that's signed, something that's binding between the person who's going to pay $100 every other Friday and the chapter. And all of that information is available to all of the admins on greekbill. It's transparent. It's an e-signature. If maybe we're looking at housing and there's a more of a financial stake there, let's also have that agreement sent to parents too. So parents can sign it. You can have a co-signer, someone maybe above the age of 21, maybe somebody who's actually paying the $5,000 for housing or whatever it might be. That way you have their signature as well. This can also replace a few different things. So if you're doing paper contracts right now, you're probably storing them, keeping them years and years of records. Let's bring it online. Let's come into the 21st century, right? And for those of you who are doing something like a DocuSign, that's an additional cost to your chapter. We're talking about budgeting. We're talking about saving money, reinvesting into the chapter. greekbill offers this tool to you at no additional cost. So let's get rid of DocuSign. Let's bring that into greekbill, and let's save you money on something that you don't need an added expense when you have this available to you.
Yeah, if we're already paying for greekbill, why add on another solution like DocuSign or Adobe Sign, because it's already in there. So earlier, I kind of outlined you're the first point of contact, and then you kind of get them onboarded and set up, and then you pass them along to somebody else. Who is like their point of contact? What is that person's role throughout the year? How often do they talk to them? Who do I go to for help?
Yes, great question. So we do have a team of, refer to them as chapter representatives, right? It's working with all the SigEp chapters that is there to assist. So a couple of basic touch points, right? You'll go through me, we'll have some conversations, we'll get you set up. As soon as we have everything set up in the system, your chapter representative will reach out to you. They'll introduce themselves. They'll look to schedule a time to meet with you. They'll do a training session. So they'll do a deep dive into greekbill where they'll walk through it from front to back to where they can help you get those previous balances into greekbill. They can help you with your contracts. They can help you with your budgeting. If you have all the information ready, if you don't, no big deal. Let's still do the training session. They're always going to be available to you. Their contact information is actually on the bottom left-hand side of your admin accounts. So when you log in as VPS, when you log into your admin side of greekbill, their picture, their email address, and the ability to schedule a meeting is available to you at all times. So if you're doing things at midnight, hopefully you understand that we're not usually on the clock at midnight, but you want to talk to them the next day. You want to get a meeting on the books for maybe later that week. Open up their calendar, schedule a time to meet with them. Most have 3 different meeting types. So it's usually like a 15-minute quick call. You just got a couple of questions you want to run through while you're walking to class, right? Maybe you have some issues getting your budgets aligned and you want to kind of get some guidance, get some advice there. You can schedule 30 minutes with them. They can do a screen share with you, and they'll walk through the budgeting tool. They'll help you out with those things. Transitions, new vice president of finance has been elected, needs to learn how to use greekbill. No issues there. It is not your responsibility to train or teach someone on greekbill. The third meeting type that I know they all offer is the hour-long 60-minute system training. Schedule that meeting or have the new vice president of finance schedule that meeting, and they will sit down with them. They'll walk them through greekbill, do the similar training to what you did. And because you're already going to have history on greekbill, they'll be able to show that new vice president of finance how your chapter was using it. Now, those are ways that you can get in touch with them, right? That's you being proactive or reaching out because you have a question, you want to talk to them. They're also going to do checkpoints. So I know one of the big topics of conversation in the past few weeks has been getting dues out because you have something like a spring bill due, right? You can't pay your spring bill unless you're bringing money in. So your chapter representatives are also going to be kind of proactively monitoring your accounts, not to say, hey, this is how much you're supposed to charge. This is, the contract you're supposed to send out, but it's going to be, hey, we noticed you haven't sent, invoices out yet, and it's getting towards the end of January. Do you need any help with that? Did you have any questions? Do you want to, set a meeting and we can walk through it together? Or maybe it's the semester doesn't start until the middle of February. So you respond with, hey, Riley, we're holding off. Guys aren't going to be back on campus until the second week of February. We're going to send invoices out then. Nothing wrong with that either. So there are going to be some proactive checkpoints, specifically the beginning of the semesters, the end of the semester as you're kind of wrapping things up. They're going to help you clean up your accounts for the end of the semester. And then one of the big focuses, and Zach mentioned this a couple of times, but tax season, right? So some nice, gentle reminders towards the end of your fiscal year, whenever that might be, as to not only how you can file taxes through greekbill, but also if you're looking for assistance, what that assistance would look like.
Yeah, as a headquarters staff member, it is my recommendation to tell you to attend the executive transition retreat at the end of the year. That transition workshop where your old executive board and your new executive board come together and they transition everything to the next guy. But as somebody who also was once a burnt out end of the year chapter president, the fact that I wouldn't have to train the next guy on how to use this system and somebody from your team would take care of that is a lifesaver. So that's huge. But attend the transition retreat. Make sure you transition the next guy. That's really important. But also that's really cool. All right, Riley, I've got one more question that was submitted, and then if anybody else, this is kind of the last call for questions. If you have any other questions, feel free to drop them in the chat now. And then I can kind of facilitate this conversation with Riley here. But the last one, the burning question on everybody's mind, what's the cost for this? What's the cost to get onto greekbill? What's the billing model structure look like?
Yes, great question. So the way the billing structure works, there's 2 types of fees that you can expect to see. The first one is the greekbill per member fee, per man fee. The great thing about greekbill being built into mySigEp and your roster syncing is that as long as you're updated mySigEp, your roster on greekbill is updated, right? So it's $18 per active member per semester. We look at a semester as being January to June and then July to December. So we're going to look at rosters in those two quote unquote semesters. Even if you're on a trimester, a quarter system, we're not going to penalize you because your school has broken the school year up into 4 quarters or 3 trimesters, right? greekbill is going to look at the fall, and then whether you want to refer to it as the spring or the winter. So easy to calculate that fee there. One thing I do want to throw out there for the advisors, for the ABCs, they are not active members of the chapter with respect to how greekbill functions. So that fee, the other place you will see a fee, as many of you who use credit cards and debit cards at the gas station, or who go to a store and they say, hey, if it's under $5, we're going to add this fee on, right? When a payment is processed through greekbill, our card processing partners, they remove 3.1% from the payment. And then if you use a bank account to pay, which is the more popular payment method these days, is 1.1% is going to come out from the payment being processed. Greekbill is going to let those funds settle into your chapter's greekbill account, and then we're going to push the money out to the chapter's local bank account on a weekly basis. So while greekbill is here to assist with finances and we're here to help you collect funds in those manners, I don't want you to think that greekbill is going to be the keeper of your money. We want to make sure the chapter always has access to those funds. You do maintain the ability to collect funds outside of the greekbill system as well, right? So when somebody shows up at a chapter meeting or they see you on campus, they can give you, their cash. They can give you a check. Take those funds to the bank, your local bank account, deposit them into the chapter's bank account. You still want to record or post that transaction on greekbill, right? If I give you a check for $500 and a month later I got a bill that says I owe $500, well, something's not adding up, right? So let's still post that transaction, show that the member's debt has been paid down or paid off. They'll get a payment, a receipt for payment. All of your reporting will update, your budgeting, so your cash flow, your revenues will update. All of that will take place as soon as you post the transaction. But because the funds did not come through greekbill, the chapter retains 100% of the funds. So you keep all of the money there.
Riley, I don't have any other questions that came through here, so I want to give you an opportunity. Is there any last features or benefits or things that you want to cover in the greekbill platform? And then we'll wrap it up for the night.
Yeah, so one feature that I've seen become really popular over the course of the last 6 or so months, especially with everything being virtual, we offer what we refer to like a purchase card. Think of the prepaid gift cards you can buy from the grocery store. You buy it for $100, you spend $100, you throw it away. These are reloadable though, so you don't throw it away. But the key being that there's no direct tie to the chapter's bank account. So no withdrawals in an ATM, no cash back at the point of sale. Whatever the balance is on the card, that's the amount that can be spent at the store, making transactions much more secure. No more giving a debit card out, no more letting somebody spend as much as they want for member reimbursement. That's probably the #1 feature that guys are getting excited about because they have more secure methods of expense management. And then just kind of the last piece here, Zach, and you kind of inspired this one, but what's in it for you guys? As the vice president of finance, you have so much on your shoulders. You have a ton of different responsibilities, not only for the chapter, but also for school, right? What's in it for you? Make your life easier, make the chapter's life easier by using a tool like greekbill. The collection rate with greekbill, chapters collect upwards of 98% of dues. Oftentimes, the cost of greekbill is offset by getting the one guy who never pays to pay because it's so much easier on greekbill. So don't think of it as an added cost. Think of it as a way to collect money and actually increase the amount of revenue that the chapter is seeing on an annual basis, while also making your lives easier.
Yeah, I remember when my chapter first kind of got on board to having a dues collection service, we were just doing like Excel spreadsheets and trying to do like a DIY super cheap solution. We were trying to save money. Everybody's kind of in that boat right now, but because we didn't have a system that was reminding them, because there wasn't a place to go and see how much I owe and have that kind of transparency into my statement, a lot of guys just weren't paying at all, and a lot of guys weren't paying on time. So we missed a bunch of bills. We had late fees, and so our collections rate was really down. We actually accumulated about $13,000 of what probably any other sane business would deem uncollectible. They said, we're not going to be able to collect this. And we hopped onto a dues collection service and was able to kind of shore up those finance practices, provide a little bit more accountability, and collect about 80% of that uncollectible debt which is really awesome. So if you're not using a system, if you don't have anything already figured out, I'd highly recommend it. If you already have a system, this one integrates with our database, and so it's kind of a little bit easier to do the administration side of things, and the reporting of new members is automatic. The signing in is already linked with mySigEp's username and password with FSID. So there are a lot of really cool benefits that only Greek will be able to offer, and hopefully help your job as a vice president of finance now, later, and also transitioning to the next guy, kind of securing your legacy as the VP of finance.